You are both veterans of the MCU. What made it special to revisit your characters for Thunderbolts?
I mean, it's, it's an extraordinary opportunity to play a character. We both played these characters in Black Widow, and we developed this relationship, and we planted these seeds, and then you never know, like, what's going to happen in the future, what Kevin Feige and Lou Esposito have in mind for the future of whatever. So it's just an incredible privilege and opportunity to be asked back and to do this again. And I think we went in, both of us, kind of guns a-blazing, trying to mine this relationship as deeply as we possibly could and to pay off all of the things we set up and to plant seeds for the future of who these people are and how they can affect each other going forward and how they can need each other going forward.
I think also just on top of that, Jake really wanted this movie to be a film that anybody could watch without having watched any other characters' backstory movies. And while that, was a great idea and really cool, I know that we both felt really defensive about the fact that, no, that might be true, but we really need a conversation about the fact that Natasha has gone and what that might be doing to both of these characters. And even though we're trying to create a movie that people don't need backstory, we need it, our characters need it, and as actors, for us to know where we are at and where our story is going, it was just something that we both felt very, very protective of.
Florence, what is Yelena's state of mind when we first meet her in the film?
Her state of mind is a very dark one. She isn't doing well. She doesn't know really what she's here for anymore. Since the last time we saw her in Hawkeye, she is now fully processing and is dealing with the grief and the loss of her sister. And she doesn't really have much color anymore. She doesn't really know why she's here, and nothing gives her joy. And we kind of see her asking those questions to her dad. After a year of not seeing each other, we see her really trying to fumble and figure out how she can make herself want to wake up in the morning. And it's something that we watch and we all can recognize as someone that needs help. And it's through the movie and through her opening up and her being there for people that she actually begins to feel that love for life again.
David, tell us what's happening with Alexei now that some time has passed.
From the events of Black Widow, he's sort of on an upswing at the end of that movie, and he is not on an upswing now. He's not in a good place. He has a limo business, which is not thriving. He thought he would come to Washington, D.C., and literally be embraced by the American government as perhaps the next savior of America, and it didn't turn out that way. He's living in a studio apartment with a crappy limo business, barely making ends meet, not talking to his daughter.
Though.
What?
It's a great smoke
machine for the real thing. No, he not even talking to his daughter because he is unable to process the guilt around Natasha's death. He's unable to process, what it means to be a dad to her or what he has to offer her. I think he's lying to himself in many different ways and desperately clinging to some former glory. And so that's where we find him. And it's a great place to start because it means that he has a tremendous journey to go on should he choose to accept it. And luckily in this movie he does.
What makes this band of heroes relatable?
Oh, that they make so many mistakes.
And they hate themselves. So much.
And they're struggling to work with one another. They don't know how to share. They don't know how to.
They don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to ask for.
They also are just like they're so used to being such lone wolves that they don't know how to even communicate or how to have any etiquette. And I think there's something quite wonderful and charming about watching all of those. What's the word? Attributes.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
My brain.
No, it's great attributes.
Yeah.
You were like, what's the word? I was like, misfits?
Yeah.
Like, crazy people. Yeah. Yeah. Watch them try to team up because they do team up despite their willful trying not to, and their willful need to believe that they are unlovable, unforgivable, unworkable in this world, they do wind up coming together.
What was your experience working with director Jake Schreier? What is his style?
Oh, it was amazing working with Jake. He, all of the things that we've said that we loved about making this movie, it was him that really argued for it and defended the themes of this movie. So it just was a huge honor to be able to do a Marvel movie in this way. And what was he like to work with? He's such a supporter. He really believes in every single person that he hires, and he just thought that we were all great. That's what was so brilliant, was like when we'd go on set and he would ask us to do something ridiculous, because sometimes you do have to be asked to do ridiculous things on sets like these. He'd be like, "Now I know, but can you just trust me because you're amazing and you'll sell it?" And you're like, "Okay, I'll do the thing."
He did make us all feel very loved.
So loved.
And it was genuine. Like, I think he says it many times in interviews, and I believe him every time he says it, he just says, like, "Why'd you want to do this movie?" And he's like, "This cast."
Yeah.
He's like, can you imagine having this cast together?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh yeah, you really do love us.
Really, really
like,
loves us.
And that's a beautiful thing, to walk onto set and know that you're going to be taken care of by a director in that way, and not compromised for some other department. And so it was really nice.
Last question. If you could use only one word to describe this film, what would it be and why?
Surprising. What about you?
The word that comes to mind is like sweet.
Surprisingly sweet.
Florence Pugh, ladies and gentlemen.
I know we're gonna end on that. Thank you. Bucky Barnes is back, but this time in a new position. Tell us where we find him at the start of the film and what his state of mind is.
His state of mind is questionable, as always. It is sort of a passive-aggressive, dormant state of mind. The suit feels uncomfortable. Maybe subconsciously he's growing his hair out, hoping someone will object. Basically, he's just trying to get someone to, pay attention. And I'm not sure he knows how to do it very well as a congressman, but he is trying to use it in a way to keep an eye on Valentina and what she's up to, because he's got a real big suspicion about her.
Wyatt, where is John Walker now, and how is he faring after the events in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
John Walker's been in some undisclosed location for months, presumably murdering people, right? Because he can do that now. Works for Val. And you find him in a precarious situation with three other of our lovely castmates and Thunderbolts, soon to be. And they have to figure out how to get out of the situation that they're in, and by doing this, they become more fully realized versions of themselves and incredible teammates on the most incredible team that the MCU has ever seen. Right?
What about Bob?
Besides Marvel's signature action, there's a lot of humor in the film despite its darker tone. As an actor, how important was it to you to have moments of levity in the story?
Very. When a movie takes itself too seriously, it can really be not fun. And part of the experience of being in a Marvel movie is like, let's have some fun. That's part of the experience. Is like, I'm going away from my home to have this 2-hour experience where I'm going to laugh and cry and feel all the emotions. And humor is an important part of our daily life to keep you feeling fresh and excited. So to me, it's very important.
Humor, definitely, of course, but also I think it's getting the audience to invest and to care about these people and these people together. And I think it's really interesting because I really do feel like everybody was a good fit. I mean, even on and off screen.
Mm-hmm.
And just personality-wise and mindset. And I think if you understand what these characters are trying to learn from or get through, then I think you're invested and you want to see them succeed.
Mm-hmm.
The practical sets were big builds. Which one was your favorite and why?
New York streets.
I think the streets at the end of the third act, that was pretty epic. The fact that we were actually
There's
driving.
those moments where you're like, you know those moments where you're like, you kind of can't see the end of the set or whatever, and you just peek out a doorway and you're like, I'm in New York right now. Like, it's incredible what they can do with building sets. And then my shock is always like, they're gonna take this down. They just built this to look exactly like 7th Avenue and wherever, and it's going to be taken down and just thrown away. I mean, it's gonna be trash. Like, how? What the fuck? But that was, I thought, incredibly well done.
Yeah, no, well, it's amazing. Also, it's just the fact that it's just so much more interesting when people build something than when you see it on a computer screen. It just always, and especially if you're there and you've got stuff to really react to, and I think it changes everything. But it changes the work environment, which is why I feel like we have to keep the practical aspect of it. Like everybody, the crew, the extras, like all those people kind of.
There's a sense of ownership over it from like the people who built this thing.
Yeah, and you want to like you're excited about it. You want to serve it in a different way than it's kind of like when it's just
screen and they'll do it afterwards. You know, it's not as cool.
Tell us about shooting the chase scene in the Utah desert.
Ooh, well, it was hot. It was hot.
It was
100
hot.
degrees.
But it was super. It was hot. You're right.
It was so hot.
But it was amazing when the sun was going down, and then there was a bit over there where it looked really pretty, and again, just to be able to be out there. Again, everyone was looking. Jake was really happy about. We're here. We're on location. This actually exists.
Right. We're doing it. But it also felt indie in a weird way because you're like out in the middle of nowhere. We've all done, a lot of indie movies in this cast, and I swear to God, when you're in the back of that limo, like you could be in the back of the limo anywhere with any crew at any movie I've ever done. Just take off the suit and put on something else, and you're just in a hot metal box and like acting. And that was. What was so I love you can't fake that it's nothing it wasn't a process trailer. It was a process trailer for some of it. What am I trying to say? It wasn't the screen, the volumes that they use now that are like they're great, but they're not the real thing. And Sebastian's the elements that you had of riding the motorbike and flipping all of those cars flipping, those were real. Like Shane was driving the car when it flipped and flipped 80 times, and like all those are real things happening.
Yeah,
cool.
I think, and I also just think audiences can tell that. They tell the difference.
Yeah.
What was it like working with the director, Jake Schreier?
Jake is very dry, but very funny and cautiously optimistic, I would say.
Cautiously optimistic is good.
But he had like a really good handle on what this is, I guess, what this movie is, what the tone is, and what makes this movie. How is it funny and different than something like Guardians of the Galaxy, or how is it as real as something like Captain America: Winter Soldier? And he found its own thing. Nothing's too much, or everything's just enough.
He had a very specific vision of what he wanted to make in terms of emotionally, and it wasn't always like he came at it from this is not perfect. And anytime I've ever done a movie, no matter what the movie was or show was, which is this isn't perfect yet, but we're gonna make it as good as we can, and not like I'm amazing, I'm really good, and I know what I'm doing. And so if you don't do it this way, it's not gonna work. If you come at it that way, I'm always like, oh God. But if it's like that, it's always been a wonderful experience, and Jake is inherently that way. I think everybody had this feeling of like, oh my God, I think he's actually listening. Where like a lot of times you'll hear a director listen and you're like, I don't know if they heard anything I just said, and then the changes don't happen and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. Jake listens, he hears you. We were rehearsing and debating and coming up with that last scene until the day we did it, and it still wasn't perfect. It worked. I mean, major changes that we were making because it just wasn't work. And then we kind of found the thing that clicked that last night in that hotel room we were all sitting in, where it was just felt like we were gonna blow up the movie, but that was the magic sauce, and we got it to a point that really worked. And Jake allowed for
and a lot of he never
patience.
Lost. It's cool. It's a lot to do, and I think there's a lot of pressure, and so anyway, he's great.
Last question. If you could use only one word to describe this film, what would it be and why?
One word. Emotional.
I want to just say integrity.
That's good. I like that. Integrity. Why?
Well, because I think it's about, honestly, it's about ownership. It really is. Or maybe that's it. It's ownership, right? And I think ownership as it pertains to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And being able to, that's what I think all of these characters are complex in that way, and they're three-dimensional because they have all those parts, and they're not. And I love that the movie is not trying to make any one of them more heroic than they've earned it for them to be, and it's not running away from showing how flawed they are, and I think that's one thing that will always separate this movie from the rest.
Hannah, tell us what Ava, aka Ghost, has been up to since we last saw her.
What has Ava been up to since we last saw her? She's been causing mischief and mayhem. She's been... where we last find her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Janet Pym has healed her, and she's now not so volatile. She's not naive. She's not immature. She's not surviving, and she's not in pain. She's very much employed in this. She hasn't found a family, a friendship, or anything. She's very much alone. She's found her power. She's found her calm. She's found her control, and I think she's dangerous. But I think she's very much got her guard up. She's a bit of a stubborn mule, very sarcastically, but she's got her Fort Knox up. She's not prepared to play with others.
Lewis, how does it feel to be part of the MCU and bring Sentry to life on screen?
Oh, there's a lot of feelings around that. They're all very excited and glowing and good feelings, obviously. And then there's also feels like there's a lot of responsibility that I'm mostly putting on myself because I care so deeply about this story, and I've been such a fan of Marvel for so long, and I know what it means to be a fan of something, and it's a real. It's not a task I take lightly, I think that to inhabit a character that's been around for so long is rightfully it's a challenge because there's so many things that we love about the characters that we love, and that we grab so tightly onto them because they do feel so comfortable, like a comfort blanket. And so I wanted to make sure not to step on sacred grounds in that way. I think I was lucky that I am playing this character because I felt like I had so much to draw from, and I felt like I had a lot of the themes that he kind of deals with and goes through. I think were felt very like places I had kind of already kind of traversed through, and so I think that's another reason why I felt like I really wanted to do it justice, because I was like I know what this feels like, and I should be able to convey that, and so I just wanted to make sure that I did that. Luckily, I had the most amazing cast of all time surrounding me, and one of the best directors around, and the entire Marvel team like helping me and putting wind in my sails. So I couldn't have been in better hands.
There are complex, multi-dimensional characters in this film. As an actor, what was important for you to convey about your characters?
I think as an actor, you bring, you do relate to the character in your own way, in your own self, because, at the end of the day, I'm not a ghost, so I can't, sit here and go, so I phased yesterday. Like, it's the emotional and complex, making these characters 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional. It's connecting with what the character, what the struggles are of the characters, which is what, we want the audience to feel relatable. I can relate to my character. There's, when you have your guard up, there's, the idea of loneliness. There's also sometimes not believing you can deserve to be a hero, or forgiveness, or second chances. And I think, I definitely draw, personal experiences as an actor with who I'm playing, which you can start from, and that just starts from a real heartbeat in a real place.
Well said. Yeah, I think oftentimes you can end up doing almost like it's like telephone, where you kind of are inspired by these performances or these versions of stories that have been told already, and they're kind of echoes of something that is actually true. And so I really felt it was important to kind of try and remove those echoes from my kind of like landscape of architecture as I was trying to build Bob, and come from a place of truth, and a place that was my own, which was I was lucky that was kind of welcomed in this circumstance,
Awesome, thank you. Tell us about working with costume designer Sonia Hayes, and what the most fun for you was in the process.
Oh my goodness, Sonia Hayes.
She's a genius.
Absolute genius.
She's so brilliant.
Absolute genius. I mean, the costumes are intricately beautiful, and they are exactly designed to us and it's storytelling in itself. It's its own character, I think, the costumes. Ghost's costume in this is unbelievable, and it's its own force to be reckoned with in this movie, and so talented, incredible.
Yeah, I've never worn costumes quite like it. If they do feel like they're from another planet, like it feels like garments that don't exist here on Earth or something. And then to have them tailor-made to your body is a very bizarre experience, where it's like this will not fit anyone as well as it fits me, which is a really empowering kind of thing for somebody like Sonia to give an actor,
Yeah, she's like, honestly, she really has given Ghost her posture. It's like it's a whole complete different posture, and I feel like you feel like a hero. You feel beyond. You feel like you're not you anymore when you put these costumes on, and it really kind of sets you up when you get on set, and you're not only surrounded by the set and the whole universe and the gravitas of that whole thing. You feel like you're part of it because of the costume and everything that comes with that.
You touched on this a little bit, but tell us about director Jake Schreier's style and what working on his sets was like.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, he's
genius.
a total genius. I think it's a hard task to come into a world like this and operate in a comfortable way. And there was never a single point where I was like, oh, yeah, it's just every day I was like, there's nobody better fit for this than you, because he really understood the assignment, as people say on the internet these days. He really was like, while also challenging it and also being like, I understand what world I'm operating in, but I also kind of want to push the boundaries and nudge them and kind of like see where where it can be expanded a little bit and where there's room to grow within it, which is a commendable trait to have as a director.
Mm-hmm.
I'd follow him to the end of the earth.
Yeah, you certainly felt really completely in safe hands, and really trusted his guidance and the patience, the nurturing of the characters, and he really is an Einstein of a director, and very meticulously, just so I think, yeah, inspiring to really tell these characters' stories as well. It's a perfect match, if you will.
Yeah.
Did you have to prepare physically for your roles, and what type of training did you do?
Yes.
Lots of hot yoga. Did a lot of hot yoga. We had incredible, we all trained, and, not only with stunts, we had incredible trainers. You had to train a lot for, we all did, but you really did.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hard challenge because there's multiple body types that really only make sense for certain characters, right? So in the beginning, playing Bob, he's supposed to be kind of smaller, and I did as much with my body language as possible. But then also I worked with this trainer, Brendan, who really we worked hard to get him in a place that was really strong physically, but lean, so that it looked like he was kind of vacuum sealed. and then we literally had 2 weeks before his reveal, and at which point we thought there was going to be kind of a pretty serious reveal. So I was like, we'd finish the day at like 9, and then I'd go work out for like 2.5 hours, and then I'd work on lines, and I'd go to bed, and I'd wake up at like 5 in the morning. And I was like, it was really important to me because I was like, it irks me when I watch something and their power is dissonant to their physical presence, And so I really wanted that to be as believable as possible. Obviously, powers can look and materialize in a lot of different ways, but it was important to me that there's some sort of thing in the serum that actually starts to kind of like metastasize within his body. And you don't see much of that on camera, what I did, but it really helped.
When you see it, it gets a reaction.
And also when you're doing all those stunts, which I hadn't had that much experience with, it's really helpful to be able to have that stamina and be able to do it over and over and over again. So being literally strong and fit for that was like very, very important.
Yeah. And the reason why, for me, it goes, the reason why I really connected to the hot yoga as well is because, I did a lot of it, and I know we all joked about it, but it's because, do you know what it is? It's a whole different training to Ava Star when in my previous movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because in this one, it's a control, and it's keeping control and doing all the positions in hot yoga and keeping focused, and it was this kind of different training and energy that I was connecting with a lot with this energy that I was bringing onto set with the training. So yeah,
that makes sense.
I did a lot. But, yeah.
It's punishing. I didn't do any of that. That's insane.
And we all ate chicken, rice, protein, nutrients. Yeah, a lot.
Whole different meal plan. Last question: if you could use only one word to describe this film, what would it be and why?
Mine would be home, because I think home we often think of as a place, a physical place, but I do think you can travel with people and people can inhabit the idea of home, and I think every character in this kind of finds their own home.
I'm going to say journey, because you see the characters physically go on a journey in the desert in a certain limo. And it's the journey of all the characters and of where they come from, where they're going to go, and the discovery of and their journey together.
What makes Valentina a great villain? Does she have any redeeming qualities?
What makes Valentina a great villain is that she isn't quite a villain. She's more complicated than that. It's not very straightforward with Valentina. She's sort of, I like to think of her as an anti-villain. She's, and yes, I think that she might have good qualities underneath it all. And she is somebody who is obsessed with power, and she has an insatiable desire for it, which is a driver for her. But you get to understand why she has such an insatiable desire, and that makes her a little more, shall we say, approachable, I think.
Geraldine, how does it feel to be part of the MCU? What did you like most about the experience?
I think, ever since, I think being a part of the MCU is sort of like beyond a dream for me. Although my mother did see a psychic about 10 years ago, and the psychic said that I would be in a superhero movie. So sometimes, maybe it was written in the stars, but it was just, when I got the call, I couldn't believe it. And especially to be entering the universe with this movie, I feel really honored because just the company that I'm in, and Jake, the director, and just the whole team around this is, exciting even outside of the Marvel universe. Like, it's just the whole kind of package is a dream. I feel like this whole experience, I just felt like kind of kid in a candy store. There was just, the scale of the production was so massive, and the amount of incredible people with deep knowledge and expertise in their fields was really incredible to be around and watch. And it just felt like there was always something to be kind of enamored by, just the whole production. Yeah.
Julia, give us an idea of where we find Valentina at the start of the film.
At the start of the film, we find Valentina as the director of the CIA, but she's a little bit in the hot seat. There's a congressional hearing about her background and her, shall we say, her intentions, and she's potentially in trouble, but she's not going to capitulate in any way.
Geraldine, describe Mel's personality and tell us what she is doing at the start of the film.
Yeah, I think Mel is very ambitious and smart and savvy and a good student. I think that she wants to impress Valentina, who's a very, powerful, successful, impressive woman. And she wants to be on her good side, and then as more of what Valentina is doing is coming to light, and Mel is confronted with the reality of what it takes to get to her position, I think, that then calls to question where she fits in this world, and kind of her inner struggle that she's dealing with. Yeah.
What impressed you both the most about the production and the crew?
Well, what surprised me the most, and delighted me the most, was the amount of people and departments it takes to put this kind of production together, and the expertise that comes to bear. And I was very, I was awed by that fact, and that there are so many people bringing their absolute A game to this. It kind of feels very old Hollywood in a way, because there's so many, the props department and the stunts and the and costumes, and all of it is so well thought through and so layered with expertise that I was just, I bow down to all of it. Mm-hmm. It takes, it doesn't take a village. It takes like a city, a state, a country to put this thing together.
Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think what was so cool about this was how most of the stunts and effects were shot practically. There's very little CGI, which is quite unique for a Marvel movie. So I think that was really cool to watch and impressive, and just, if there was a helicopter in the sky in the scene, the helicopter was really there. Yeah.
That's cool. Tell us about working with the director, Jake Schreier.
I'm so grateful to have worked with Jake Schreier on this film. We couldn't have done this film if he hadn't been involved. His dedication to the grittiness, the tone, the rawness of the movie and of the story itself. He was devoted to character arc and development, and the story has a real shape in the film, which I think audiences are going to really respond to. There are characters to be properly rooting for in an emotional kind of way. And, by the way, he straddles the world, Jake did, in his direction, straddling the world of comedy and drama very expertly. I mean, very finely tuned. Amazing.
That's good. Did you want to add?
I think Jake is such a brilliant filmmaker and really brought his kind of, excellent taste and instincts to this, and is just an incredibly thoughtful, it's so detailed in his work, and I think it really kind of, the film is so much richer for his input.
When audiences watch this film, what do you hope they experience?
Well, first and foremost, when audiences watch this film, I hope they really feel like they got their money's worth and they were properly entertained, because because that's what we want to do. We want to deliver, and we take that very seriously. I hope also that there are certain themes in the film that the audience will walk away with and feel, have a think about, or see how these ideas apply to their own life. And so there's that. But ultimately, we just want them to have a really good time.
And then last question. If you can only use one word to describe this film, what would it be and why?
One word?
Can it be hyphenated?
Hey.
Big ass fun.
Hey! Love that! Big ass fun, one word. That's good. Entertaining. Entertaining? Yeah, I think so.
What was your reaction when you were tapped to direct Thunderbolts? Were you a fan of the MCU?
Yeah, I've been a fan, and lucky enough that my college roommate John Watts directed all of the Spider-Man movies, so I'd actually gotten to work on Homecoming just for the LA portion. Did second unit of those pickups, so I'd gotten to know the folks at Marvel through that. And I mean, I think anytime you get to work in this world that people care about so much, and with this cast, I mean, how could you not be excited?
What was your vision for the film?
I think, one thing that's nice about this movie is it's about a team up, and I think that it's not as much about my particular vision as all these great people that came together to really try and make something different. So Eric Pearson had written this really interesting flip on what you might expect this film to be, which was about kind of sending these people to kill each other and be thrown away, and developed that with Brian Chapek, our wonderful executive producer. I felt like, what I could bring to it coming off of doing Beef was this idea of really going into a more internal version of that story and trying to get at some character ideas, and especially like in the way that if Sentry the Void is going to be your antagonist, like what should your protagonist be going through that really connects with that we tried to bring, and then eventually brought in a lot of those collaborators from Beef, where Lee Sung-jin came in and did numerous drafts of the script, Grace Yoon, our wonderful production designer, Harry Yoon, our editor, and a whole bunch of wonderful collaborators kind of came together to make that story. And then, of course, Joanna Calo came in, who had written on season 1 of Beef, but also co-created The Bear, and just brought so many more of those character dynamics to life throughout the process.
What is the tone of the film, and does it have an overarching theme?
I think if there is a theme to the movie, it's about isolation and this question of, there's a line that Yelena says to Bob at one point that he repeats back to her as the Void, where she says, "We're all alone, all of us," and I think the question of the movie is, is that true, or does it have to be true? Do we have to be alone in this? Like when we're going through something, when we experience shame or thought loops, like do we have to exist in that, in isolation, or through connection, could we maybe find a way out of those things? And, obviously the hope is that through connection we can get out of there. And, I think that's something that I've certainly experienced, and I have friends that have gone through, different versions of, on a more internal level, some of the big external ideas of what a rich character, Bob, Sentry, the Void is, that it felt like we could tie all those things together. And, it was nice. We spoke with Paul Jenkins, who created the character of Robert Reynolds, Sentry, the Void, with Jay Lee. And, for him, the character was always a parable for mental health. And so it felt like that was the only way we were going to be honest to that creation, is to take that and run with it and find our own way into what that character was.
What is the timeline of the film, and where does it fit in the MCU?
I mean, I think what was so nice about this film was it felt like it existed in such a contained fashion. It takes place over the course of just a few days, in the modern world of 616, and so it feels like it's in its own little corner of the universe, and then obviously at the end, it has much larger implications for the rest of the world and the universe, but it felt like until we got there, we really had room to play in this kind of isolated space where we didn't have to worry about too much of that interaction and really could tell a contained story.
Perfect. When we meet many of the characters, they are at low points in their lives. How did this entry point allow you to explore them on a deeper level and make them relatable?
Yeah, I think it really felt like, the Thunderbolts or all of us. They're people that, some of whom might have imagined they were destined for greater things or even individual glory. Like, that's something that Alexei obviously is very interested in for a lot of the film. John Walker was Captain America, until that went very, very wrong. And so it becomes more about, like, when things don't work out the way that you imagined, which is something I think I would imagine we can all relate to. I certainly can. Where do you go from there, and what can you build from that? And what and who do you need to find to kind of come out of that place, and could you maybe be something greater as the sum of your parts than being stuck in that isolation?
And last question. Several of the actors have played their characters before. How did their character knowledge help you as a director?
I think part of it is just to have actors this good is always just a privilege as a director. It makes your job very easy. But I think also, to make a good movie, you want to feel like not only that everyone brought their best and we had an amazing cast and crew in this film, but also that they brought something of themselves into it. And all of these actors care so deeply about their work and about the characters that they portrayed. And so it is that interesting dialogue, because in order to make a movie, you need to have a new conflict, a new want, a new need, a new arc for them to play, but it also needs to feel honest to the character that they've also brought to life. And so there was a lot of really interesting discussions in those kind of weeks of rehearsal beforehand, where we didn't really rehearse so much as just go through the script, really talk about where it was heading, like what it was establishing, and how they could sort of, adjust it and bring things to it that made it feel more personal to them and to the character that they were so protective of.